minus 22. Rock and roll experience. We know one guy in Shanghai, we're good. Oh, that insurer is so bad. AI underwriting sounds weird, in 2022. I would say people are looking for more like globally portable solutions.
Finally, Jonathan, I can say welcome. It's been a while. I think this interview is overdue. We tried to plan it for some time and then lockdown hit and it postponed again and again, but finally we can have this chat. Thank you so much for finding time and joining me.
No problem. Thank you so much for your invitation, Marianne. It's great, and we have a sunny day, so it's even better.
It's
for this
rainy season, but we are lucky to have the sunny day. And also I want again to give shout out to Polestar for this amazing car, which is very comfortable, and I hope you're gonna enjoy this ride. And I make sure this ride is also insightful and interesting. It's became already tradition. The first question that I ask all foreigners here in China: what's your China story? When and why did you come here?
Well, that brings us back 15 years ago, actually, because I arrived the very first time in 2007. I remember very well because it was in October, and actually I fly from France to Shanghai for a very quick stopover, and moved to Changchun in Jilin province, capital city of Jilin province in northeast of China, where I was supposed to take 1 year to pass a master's degree. Because I was graduated from business school in France, and for the first time ever, we were the first promotion of French people sent to the counterpart university, which was the University of Technology, I think in Jilin, something like that. And that was a rock and roll experience, if I could say, because we were left 14 French people, barely speaking English and no Chinese, zero, into a university with about 7,000 lovely Chinese students, where we just could not communicate with them. That was really annoying. So we stayed there for about, we were supposed to stay for 9 months. We stayed for 2 months. And already when we left, it was minus 22, I think. So that was rough.
Gosh.
That was cold, so to speak. So that was my first, impression of China. So lovely people, great welcoming experience, super freezing cold. And the city of Changchun, it's a big city in the northeast, but back then it was really, a lot of pollution, frankly speaking, a lot of like coal heating systems and so on. So we could feel very warm inside, but the outside was, a little bit tough, because literally for 6 months in a year, it's like below zero. So when it snows, then, that accumulates, and this is becoming ice everywhere. And you see like the particles, like the gray particles, so that, not super great feeling. But the city and the people otherwise were very welcoming, very friendly. It's just a pity we just could not communicate, because the school didn't, plan a lot of language sessions beforehand. So that was the first experience. I stayed a couple of months there. I moved to Shanghai just because my roommate had a friend who was living here already, and we were like, okay, we know one guy in Shanghai, we're good. We can go. So our first trip was literally 24 hours, I think, train ride from Changchun to Shanghai, because we're students, so literally we're broke. We could not afford airplane.
3 decks?
Yes, 3 decks. Yeah, like the hard couch or something, like as they call it. So we came here and we were like, wow, this city is amazing, compared to Changchun. Wow, they are foreigners. Literally in Changchun, people were stopping in the street and taking pictures with us, because there are so few foreigners actually. Only guys from Siemens and Audi and like big car companies were in Changchun back then. And this is what brought me to Shanghai. I really liked the city, and start to work here, like small jobs. It was really hard because I had no experience. And Olympic Games came in, Beijing 2008, if you remember. It was Summer Olympics, and my visa was running out around this time, and it was literally impossible to extend it in the Olympics period. So I went home, and I stayed back home for about 8 months, I think, and returned in 2009 in Shanghai, April. So it's actually, we passed 13 straight years that I live here, back in Shanghai. So that was a little bit, chaotic start, but it was fun. Actually, it was fun, and I really got the taste for China at this time.
Lots of stories to tell, definitely, right? I also remember my first days and first month and first weeks, right, in China. That was crazy, and it also was not in Shanghai. It was in a different place, Hubei province, right? Amazing. So, like you said, you've been already almost 13 years, or even more than 13 years in China. And that's exactly pretty much how much time you spend with Abacare, right, with your current company.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting staying for such a long time in one company in Shanghai. There have been definitely lots of changes, and I'm just curious to know what are the changes you witnessed during all these years in the insurance industry in China and globally.
Yeah, actually, when I started in 2009, which was actually completely random, because I was not trained, in insurance or anything like that. So I just had the opportunity. I joined, and I find I like it. So that was a start. Back then, China. If we talk about giant insurers like Ping An is founded in 1988, right? You talk about major insurers like, say, Allianz, for example, very big in Europe. They are founded in 1890s, so it's like 120 years, 30 years here. So literally in 2009 in Shanghai, which already was a super well developed city, in the country, insurance was still at the start. It was still at the growing phase. And we are specialized in what we call IPMI, which is individual private medical insurance, or private medical insurance for corporates. So this is very, very new type of policies at the time. So literally there was very little choice. There was almost no opportunities with local Chinese people, because that was not something they would consider to buy. So we are, very much focused on advising expats. So there was a lot more, foreigners back then, because it was like the crazy years where China had 10-12% growth, a year. So that was like completely crazy, huge amounts of investment. So our back then, our main focus was to provide high-end medical insurance for expat family, expat companies. And actually that was very small market. Comparatively now, all of the major insurers, they have branches. We're just passing by Lujiazui actually, so they are all out there, in the skyline. They have their towers and so on, and there is much more choice, much more specialized product for local population as well, for local buyers. So it's been really a great improvement in terms of the offering, and a lot more foreign companies came in and invested and started to operate in China. I think probably the turning point is about 10 years ago, where we've seen actually major brands really making the effort to come and invest in China market. However, I can say that quite a fair amount of them are not making much money actually in this market. It's a tough one, but I think they are here for the long run, and they are definitely, still large business opportunities in this country.
Interesting. So we are recording this interview right after the long lockdown here in Shanghai, which has been almost 3 months. And unfortunately, that lockdown was kind of a last drop, and many people, especially foreigners, and also lots of locals, to be honest, right, to be frankly, left China, and many of them are leaving. And as you say, most of this insurance targeting basically the foreigners, expats. So how is that changing the industry? How do you face this challenge, and how do you solve it?
It's definitely a tough hit for us. It's not only us, but the market in general, because expat population, foreign population are more natural buyers of these kind of products. And unfortunately, the demand, even though it's growing locally, is not, that much high yet. So that's why we and the market in general have suffered in 2020. We had a good rebound last year. This year is also complicated. It's not a disaster as people say, but it's definitely more complicated than what we expected. So this has a effect, because some companies are shrinking. Some people are leaving just because they don't see when they will be able to travel freely and so on. They want to just go and see their family. So that definitely had an impact. So the volume is dropping. However, what we are counting on now is the mass affluent or the high net worth, like local population will, eventually get more insured. Still, some barriers and some thinking, but they are really considering now, because healthcare cost is really expensive in Shanghai. I think you know it, and when you have a good situation, a good income, and so on, you don't want to wait for half a day in a public hospital.
Right.
Not that the public hospitals are not good for the quality of treatment, just they are too crowded. So people want more private healthcare providers, and it costs a lot of money. So at the end of the day, we think there will be a lever for people to actually be willing to insure this kind of expense.
Interesting. So, and then maybe follow up over here question as well.
Yeah.
So let's say if you say that actually more and more locals are buying the international insurance or better quality insurance, because first of all, probably the income is growing, right, for the middle class.
Of course.
Also, they understand the quality and the service, so it's playing more significant role nowadays.
Sure.
But then there are lots of local, I guess, insurance providers as well popping up all the time. So what is the strategy to stay relevant and to stay competitive?
Yes, definitely the local market is also picking up. So it means that pure local insurers are not, giving up that market, because they see it's a fast growth market, even though it's much, much smaller. So we are starting from a much smaller base compared to other kinds of insurance, like life insurance or property and casualty, for instance, which is much more mature in China. I would say the efforts that local players made are a lot on digitalization, making it easy, making it adaptable, also for the needs, of people, for their budgets and so on. So this is where they have made strong efforts. The international providers, on the other end, I think their way to differentiate is about the quality of the product, high quality of the service as well that they are delivering, and also the overseas care. So this means not only you can have access to a lot of great hospitals within China, but you also have network outside. Some of them are offering medical escorts when people are seriously sick and they want to get treatment overseas and so on, which before pandemic was much easier to happen. Then international players were probably better positioned in that sense, because they had also the expertise there. and also I think at some point, and probably this is changing now, but at some point there has been a serious trust issue because people were not necessarily explained well what they were buying. They were not properly, told what to pay attention at and so on. So they faced situation where maybe they had claims that wasn't paid, and then they are like, "Oh, that insurance is so bad," and all that stuff, which happened in a while. So I think there was a kind of a tightening also in China from the regulation in terms of who can sell, the kind of training that people need to have, and so on, to make sure the actual setting of policy is well done, and people get the right level of information.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the local players going through the digitalization, right? And we know that technology disrupting lots of industries, and insurance definitely is not an exception.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing, insurtech. I'm just curious, so what are the trends, probably in China and globally, and how much Abacare is embracing the trend, and what are you excited about?
I think there is a lot of things happening because we're in a very traditional space. Insurance, is very traditional. We're still doing paper and pen, like this kind of stuff, which sounds weird, in 2022. But what we see is, first of all, even before the lockdown and pandemic started, there was already a rise for teleconsultation. This means insurance company allowing their members to have access to doctors online, whether through phone call, video call, and so on, so that it would just make it easy for people to use, medical care without having to wait and so on for a certain period of time. So that was, a big part of the digitalization of the healthcare service that happened in the last, I would say, probably 3-4 years. That was one of the big trends. Now we are seeing as well digitalization of the actual insurance process. So not fully yet in China, but at least for international markets, we are seeing like big brands which are launching platform where clients can fully, apply online. This means you don't need even to sign any, thing on the paper. You can do your entire application online. You can get underwriting results online, because when we talk about medical insurance, which is a little bit, special type of product, compared to travel policy or car policy or whatever, because a car policy is easy to buy online. But medical, you need to underwrite people. You need to basically consider their health condition, whether their health condition suits with your risk appetite, to make sure. So whether you can offer them or not insurance. And in order to do that, you need to ask them questions. They need to give them to give you answers. They need to provide medical information. And until now, underwriters and doctors are actually evaluating each application's answers, which really sometimes can take a while if they are serious health condition. And they will say, "Oh, we can take, we cannot take, we can take maybe with some conditions," and so on. What I've seen, and very recently, months ago, I think we had a presentation for a major brand, is like AI underwriting. This means you fill up your application, you fill up your medical questionnaire, say you disclose you have, diabetes, or high blood pressure or whatever. Then you click, you say, okay, what condition do you have? And then you'll get a series of questions. They'll say, okay, you have diabetes, fine. What kind of diabetes? Okay, I have diabetes, type 1, type 2. Since when? I have diabetes in that time. What kind of medication are you taking? Etc., etc., etc. So they'll ask you a series of questions to refine actually on your medical condition. And the model will be able to say, okay, we take you, we don't take you, we take you with, that much percentage of loading, etc. So I think this is quite, a serious breakthrough, because we can, with this, ensure people who have a condition, first of all, we can know much quicker whether we'll be able to find them cover or not, and also to complete the process, because it could take a while actually for people who have serious condition before we can actually get them results on whether or not we can insure them. So this is one of the things. Of course, all the apps, WeChat mini programs and so on, this is also available for several years. Insurers are allowing now for, geolocalization of hospitals. So like you're in the middle of, Baoshan district, and you're like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Mm-hmm. I'd like to check, where is the nearest hospital that I can go that is covered by my plan, then you can check on the app. More and more insurers now are digitalizing insurance card. Mm-hmm. Most insurers were issuing like plastic card you keep in your wallet and so on with your emergency number and so on. Now it's a digital card. You just need to have your phone. You can still use direct bidding and so on. You have like all the e-claiming possibilities as well. So you can, directly claim online, take pictures with your phone, submit. So this is the trends that we see in digitalization. It's mostly about clients' experience, making it easy for people to actually use their cover, and also for the partners, the brokers like us, to make it easy as well to conduct business. So I think that's going in the right direction. Again, in China, still a little bit behind because there are probably like some regulation, controls and so on. So it takes a little bit longer. But we think that this will eventually happen pretty soon as well.
What you've seen in the market, I'm just curious about the startups, right? If the startups trying to build something in the insurance industry, how hard is it for them? Who's actually driving this change of digitalization and innovation? Is it smaller companies or actually this is the big giants like Abacare and other market players?
Well, I'm pleased you see us as a giant.
I mean, but well-established long-run company, right?
Yeah. I would say there are some examples of insurtechs in China. Not that many actually. In China, there are more insurtechs, I think, in Hong Kong and Singapore for APAC market. What we've seen is their purpose is mostly about finding a function that will probably just enhance the user's experience or make something complicated easy. So we've seen, and I talked in the past to some people who are doing like claim automation. For instance, in a traditional way, insurance company receive a claim, then there is a handler who is going to review the claim, see whether that's covered or not, what is the amount of compensation, and make an actual decision on whether to pay that claim or not and how much. There has been like a great deal of improvement for automation on the claims, especially I think car insurance is one of the areas where there can be a lot of claims actually, where claims have been majority have been automatized specifically for small amounts, because again also the cost of treating that claim versus paying that claim sometimes might make sense to say, okay, we just use the technology, settle what we have to settle, and don't spend too much time on it. So there has been efforts on this. There has been people working on the hospital networks and making hospital networks more easily available for insurer. Obviously, in this market, the people who have like the deeper pockets are insurance companies, big ones, because they can really invest and they can. I think they acquire actually quite a number of startups. Whenever they come with a digital, concept which is improving the quality of the services. So that's one. Some very large broker also have invested, I think, and acquired some insurtechs. But there has been in the startup field also, I think there has been some sponsoring probably by large insurer to how do you call that, the incubators. I think Ping An did that, probably others as well. Where they actually funded incubators so that to help fresher companies come through and to get like technology enable more like tech development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The last but not the least, I'm curious to hear more about, because hopefully we are in the end of the pandemic, right? And people start
fingers
crossed. People start traveling more. I mean, globally, not just in China.
Yes.
And because of pandemic, work from home, it's not a trend. It's already something that we're gonna be living with probably for a long time. And we have lots of digital nomads as well. So the number been already for quite long before, but now it's even okay. I can do work remotely or just go to Bali. Lots of companies introducing the digital nomads even visas, right? So you can stay in the country for a long time. So how that situation is reshaping the insurance industry?
I would say at least people who they were say living in China, based in China, now they are going to work remotely across different Asian countries or part of the world. The questions we get is a lot about portabilities, like can I carry on my insurance with me, which is very important because if you do have ongoing health issues, you want to make sure you don't have to start again from zero, that you can carry on what you have with you. So a lot of question about that. We get a lot of clients who are actually considering to relocate and ask us whether we can still provide services to them overseas. So fortunately we have Hong Kong and Singapore entities, so we would be able through that to have a continuity of service. So this is number one, portability of the insurance product. Also I would say the networks are very important. So people want to know where they can go and claim, whether they are maybe affiliated hospitals in their new new city, new country. So that is also a second point. Of course, for international insurers, the digitalization is even greater. You can e-claim usually either without limit or maybe up to $1,000 limit. So it's like most of your claims, just submitted electronically. That's quite fast and easy, I think, to get your things done. So that's also part, of the question. So I would say people are looking for more like, globally portable solution, flexible as well, because they want to be able to maybe drop down their cover, upgrade their cover, and so on. So this is what we observe in that sense. So they want to kind of, I have my cover, I'm moving, say, to Vietnam, to start a new life. I'd like to see whether I can carry on that policy with me. This is the thing we're getting here.
Thank you so much.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you very much, Marianne, for having me in this good car, good weather, and I hope we will meet again very soon.
Very soon. That was Between Meetings. Please like, share, comments, and we see you next time.